Total War Warhammer 3 releases to mixed reviews. And is almost all due to the Chinese audience. The very same that Creative Assembly has of course been chasing absolutely desperately now for half a decade. The same audience that CA has been bending over backwards for at every opportunity. There's a certain amount of cosmic justice involved in that, isn't there? There really is. And I gotta say too, I've got my problems with the Chinese government, but I love Chinese people. And man, we here in the West, we've got some lessons to learn from the Chinese consumer, because they still have standards, and when a company fails to live up to those standards, they are willing to yell at them over it. Whereas here, man, apathy has really taken over, and you know what? I'm partially guilty of that as well, but before we get into that, what exactly is it then that has gotten the Chinese community so riled up? Well, it's technically nothing to do with the game itself, though there are quite a few negative reviews surrounding that too, as apparently the game runs like fossilized dog turds, which, considering Total War's recent performance problem, hardly surprises me, honestly. I remember downloading and trying to play Total War Warhammer 2 on a regular non-SSD hard drive a couple of years ago, and seeing 5-minute load times for battles. Yeah. I can see there being some performance issues in the current installment as well. But the real thing that's got the Chinese community so up in arms is how Creative Assembly has treated it. CAUC realized that they had a big hit on their hands here, because people lapped up Total War Warhammer 1 and 2 to the point that CA have completely stopped making historical titles. Now it's all fantasy. Three Kingdoms, which is based on the romance of the Three Kingdoms, or Total War Troy. The historical title is, as far as we know, not even in production anymore at Creative Assembly. They also figured that if people were willing to lap up not one, but two full-price releases, then a third would be a clench. And so they decided to go for the yet wider audience again. Creative Assembly has been going for the wider audience now with every release since Rome 2, pretty much, and yet they can still go wider. However, this time, they didn't reckon with, again, the Chinese. They began handing out streaming keys, review keys, and early access keys to hundreds, if not thousands, of rando-ass streamers, most of which had never heard about Total War or Warhammer before, and well, they were basically being paid and sponsored to play the game, so they did, but they couldn't care less about it. They were completely uninterested, and the actual fans who watched this were outraged. They're like, why the hell do you get a key? Why doesn't this guy get a key? The person who likes the game, why can't I see him play? And now you're spoiling the entire story. You're showing stuff that we're not supposed to see yet. This is garbage. And they were outraged over it, and so now they're review bombing the game over CA's poor PR performance. And you know what? Not only is that fine, that is eminently desirable as well. And again, we in the West could learn a lesson or two from this, because a game cannot be separated from the game studio that makes it. And Creative Assembly is the clearest example of this we have. Old school fans like me, I have grown almost completely disillusioned about Total War. I just don't care anymore. And that's sad, because it was one of my favorite, if not the favorite video game series ever. And yet now, when I look at Total War Warhammer 3, I don't look at the culmination of Total War Warhammer, a game I have wanted for decades. What I see is a game that is lesser in almost every way to Medieval 2. I cannot look at it anymore without seeing all of the lacking mechanics, all of the lacking complexity, all of the lacking little touches that gave the game so much soul. In Total War Medieval 2, when you upgraded a unit, its armor model changed in-game for the feudal knights. You had all of those kick-ass little assassination cutscenes. You could build watchtowers, you could build forts, you had bridge battles, you had merchants, and you had priests. You had so much stuff that just doesn't exist in modern Total War titles. Don't even get me started on the siege battles as well. And yet, again, here's the thing, we have rewarded this practice again and again and again. We deserve a lesser Total War because we buy it in ever greater numbers. We can't complain that there aren't any siege battles anymore. We can't complain that the agents have been reduced to a far lesser and less interesting group. We can't complain that there aren't any naval battles because we didn't buy one full-priced installment. We didn't buy two full-priced installments. We bought three $60 games for Total War Warhammer 3. We bought that title 3 times at full price, plus God only knows how many hundreds of dollars of DLC. This is a bet of our own making, and if anyone was surprised when Total War 3 Kingdoms decided to go, no, we're done making DLC, we're gonna make 3 Kingdoms 2 now. Again, we did this to ourselves by not beating the shit out of CA every time they committed a non-consumer act. And it feels like a pointless struggle. I was at the leading edge of this when Total War Warhammer 1 came out, and they decided to cut out the Chaos Warriors. When they just sliced that out of the game, it was fully finished, it was done, it was in-game, they just snipped it out there and made you pay for it unless you pre-ordered. I was one of very few people who called out for what it is, actual genuine cut content. Now, cut content is right back again. Even after CA were like, oh, we understand this causes a lot of outrage, and we'll reconsider it in the future. Bullshit, you will. Because again, this is how corporations work. They'll do something bullshit, then they'll gauge the reaction. If you let them get away with it, guess what? They'll do it again. And again, and again, and you need to call it out. If anything, I hope that even more Chinese gamers get into the franchise so that they can hold CA responsible, because apparently we are just not interested in doing that, and that is very unfortunate. Now, of course, whether or not it will be possible to continue to play Total War Warhammer from China, that's a different question, since CA does not officially release Total War in China on the Chinese version of Steam. Instead, Chinese gamers have to access the game via the international version, which has been at least partially hampered by the Chinese government, it appears, at this point in time. So how much longer they will allow it to remain up at all? Well, that's the question, isn't it? When will the great firewall slam shut on the international version on Steam? Who knows? Who knows? However, as for right now, I am glad to see the Chinese gamers giving some blowback to CA, and I wish we would be able to do it as well, but my philosophy right now is very simple. There is no point in going after CA yet. Not right now. They are far too popular, they are riding on far too large a wave, and their entrenched fan base is far too pleased with mediocrity. If we can, excuse me, more correctly, yes, if we are to do anything effective, we need to save up that social capital for when Creative Assembly make a big blunder, and then try to hit them as hard as possible, hoping that it'll somehow sink in. Whether or not that's a winning strategy, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see, but right now, the only move, as they say, is not to play. Until next time, I have been Arch. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.